Hi there, welcome to the channel or welcome back. I'm Angela and today I have a pattern review for you. If that sounds interesting, stay tuned. Hi there, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Today I'm going to share my experience making Simplicity S8877. It is, bring it in a little closer, it's called like a kimono. I mean, I guess it's not like a true kimono, but it's a variation on a kimono with different lengths, waist options, sleeve options. And I intended to do the standard version here with the upper body and the lower body. It didn't exactly go that way, and I'll explain more about that as we go, but just to share with you what the pattern includes. And then here are the line drawings. This pattern was published in 2019, so not that long ago, but it does look to be out of print already. I couldn't find it on Something Delightful's website, but it is readily available on eBay, Etsy, even I saw some on Amazon, like used copies, but still factory folded, anywhere from $5.99 and on up. So it is still pretty readily available. That's why I'm comfortable sharing a pattern review with you guys. Or some of you guys might already have this in your stash and looking to make it. So with that, the suggested fabrics are, there's a whole bunch of them: batiks, burnouts, challis, cotton lawn, double georgette, lightweight linen types, silky types. I used a cotton lawn. I'm wearing it right now. I got this fabric from Marcy Tilton Fabrics. I'll put a link to it in the description below in case you're interested in it. It was so great to work with, as you might expect from a lawn. Nothing tricky, sewed up nicely, it behaved, and it turned out really nicely. So I was very happy about that. And then as for size ranges, this pattern includes double extra small to double extra large, and the bust measurements are 29.5 inches to 48 inches, and then in centimeters, it's 75 centimeters to 122 centimeters. So just going by the measurements, I cut a large at the shoulders and bust and then graded out to an extra large at the waist and hips, and it seemed to fit just fine. So no complaints about how it fits according to the sizes listed on the pattern back. And the instructions were really easy to follow. And this pattern is from the Simplicity Pattern Hacking. I think it was a collection that they had for a while called Design Hacking, where they give you these options and then encourage you to make it your own by mixing and matching like upper parts to bottom parts, so to speak, instead of calling them views A, B, and C or so forth. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. But it was a little bit not tricky, but I had to think a little bit on how to put the yardages together. So for instance, instead of just saying if you're doing view A, size large, use this much fabric, you do either body with 3/4 sleeves for 45-inch fabric and 60-inch fabric, and body with short sleeves. And they give you the yardage for that based on your size. But then if you're going to add on the lower body, which is right there, they give you an extra piece of yardage to get no matter your size. And then if you're just doing the shorter flounce, they give you yardage for that. And then they give you separate yardage for the band and the tie that a couple of the options have. So that's separate yardage. So it took a minute to kind of wrap my head around. It's a different way of thinking about it. And it was fine. You know, you just add up the yardages together to get how much you need. So it wasn't tricky, just a different way to think about it. And then I did want to show you guys, because this was so different than most of the big four patterns that I've ever sewn with, I wanted to share the way the instructions are with you guys. So they were easy to follow, but the thing is that they're kind of printed like vertically on the page instead of, you know, horizontally. So that was kind of unique. So that took another little minute to kind of wrap my head around that. And it wasn't bad. It was just like a different way of looking at things, not a problem. I did find that this the instructions were, they included a lot of hand holding, which could be good if you are new to sewing and you're just trying to learn and improve your skills. So there was a lot of extra information that a lot of patterns, at least the big four, do not give you. I hope this is not crinkling too much. I apologize. I'm trying to find an example. So they kind of assume that you're new to sewing. And let's see. So for instance, when you are ready to sew, it says ready, steady, sew. So that's after you've cut and read the directions and everything. And they tell you to stay stitch the front and back at the neck edges, which is pretty common thing to do. But then they explain what stay stitching is. They say stay stitching is a row of stitching placed along the curved neck edge to prevent the fabric from stretching when we attach the bias tape to the neckline. So I thought that that could be pretty helpful. It goes on to say this stitching stays in permanently and is shown only once and will not be shown in further illustrations. So they kind of put in little helpful explanations as you go, which I find probably is not a bad thing. Even for people that have been sewing for a while, you might learn a thing or two. So that was good. And then they also put in little style hacks. For instance, when you're finishing your sleeves, the sleeve hem, it says style hack. Try adding a fringe or pom-pom trims to your sleeve for a fun look. So I thought it was kind of like a fun pattern, just having all the extra little bits in there. It was something new that I haven't really seen much, and I liked it. And one other thing to note with this, because it's considered like a hacking or hackable pattern, there was an extra sheet of tissue paper, like a full sheet of tissue paper that just had nothing but grid lines on it. So I guess that's meant for you to design on. If they explained what that was for, I must have skipped over it. But I thought that was kind of interesting. Like if you wanted to, you could use that if you wanted to make pattern adjustments to the pieces. So that could be helpful too. And then I'm going to read to you the little blurb under where it says pattern hacking. It says, we provide the basics, you create the possibilities. It's easy to design, build, and customize your look with our pattern hacking pieces and techniques. So I feel like it's kind of like a new modern way to look at patterns. Take it for what it's worth. I enjoyed getting to see something new and look at things in a different way than what I'm used to. And as for any adjustments that I made, here's where I'm going to kind of get into the issues that I ran into. It's not the pattern's fault. So when I was cutting this out, or actually doing my adjustments, grading from the large to the extra large, I realized that the connecting, the join line of the upper and the lower body pieces sits up pretty high, and I just don't like things to sit up that high on me. So I added an inch to it, and I thought that ought to sit just right. And then I got to thinking about it as I was cutting out my fabric pieces. I went ahead and added another inch just to have some playroom in case I felt it was still too high. So I got it all stitched together, front, back, lower and upper together. And I did not like the way the lower body was at all. And I think that that's because I'm using the cotton lawn and it's got a lot of structure to it. And it's not drapey per se. So I felt like in the back, especially, that lower body was like sticking way out instead of just like falling like hers does, kind of like close to the body in a fluid. It was puffy, and I don't need anything that adds more volume to my waist and hips. So I was a little disappointed about that. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do now? So I did go ahead and take the lower part off. And I tried it just as is without even having that on. I'll show you how this looks. I really liked it just as is without the lower part, even though it's pretty short. And as I decided to just keep it just this upper part and do away with that flounce altogether, I was so glad that I had added those 2 extra inches on to my upper body part, because if I hadn't, this would have been way too short to wear by itself, just the top part. I hope that made sense. By having those extra 2 inches added, it falls just right to be a little cropped topper. So I was like overall thankful for how it turned out, but it was kind of a little bit worrisome there, especially with this fabric, which was a little bit more expensive than the fabrics I normally buy. And I'm like, oh gosh, I hope I didn't totally like ruin this. But it all worked out. I'm so happy that it worked out. But that's kind of the issue that I ran into with that. And that could just be like, I think primarily due to the type of fabric that I used. One other thing that I did differently from the pattern, they call for having a back seam on the upper body back there. See that? I had enough fabric that I could just cut it on the fold, and it was just a straight cut, so it wasn't like there was any shaping on that center seam. So I thought might as well just put it on the fold and not have that seam line going down there. So I'm glad that I did that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like on. I do have it styled with one of the skirts that I'd made for my capsule wardrobe, and just this is actually just a tank top underneath. I'm not the world's best at styling, and I'm not a fashionista, so I just kind of put this together and hope it looks okay. And mostly what we'll be looking at is the topper anyway. One other thing to note that I didn't mention, the sleeve is not a separate piece. It's just all like front and back, and it just has the underarm stitch there. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So that's it. I love it, and I think I'm going to get a lot of wear out of it with all these colors in there, most of which are in my color palette. I'm going to get a lot of wear out of it. It'll be a nice little thin topper over a t-shirt or a tank top or even a long sleeve shirt when it's a little bit cool out or something, or if I just want to cover up my shoulders and arms, it ought to be perfect for that. And we'll wrap it up with the 3 questions that I always ask myself when I finish a make. And the first one is, do I like the way it turned out? And in the end, with everything that I went through, I would say that yes, I love the way it turned out. I couldn't have asked for anything better. I love it with this cropped length, I think even more than had it been longer. So very happy with that. And the second question is, would I make it again? Absolutely, I would make it again. This was such a quick make. And if I hadn't had to deal with the whole attaching and then detaching, unpicking all the stitches of the lower body portion, this would have been done like lickety split so quick. If I make it again, especially if I just make the cropped length, it'll be like a 1 hour project pretty much. So easy. And then the third question is, would I change anything? So I think if I were to make this again, I would probably try it with maybe a challis or something with a little more fluidity to it, and go ahead and try it again with the lower body portion of the flounce, just to see if I like that better, if it falls a little bit more nicely and looks more like it's supposed to look instead of being a big old poof at the bottom. I think that I would like to try it that way. And I can definitely see making it again in another similar fabric like this, just for a lightweight topper. Also, I think it might be maybe interesting to try like a little button here or a tie right here. I might try those options too if I make this again. I feel like this could be a very good pattern for a beginner. It was easy, nothing tricky about it. No closures, no buttons, buttonholes, snaps, hooks or eyes, zippers, anything like that. The only thing that could be that adds a little more complexity, but nothing crazy, is if you were going to do the elastic and drawstring at the waist there. But even that, I think, would be fine for a beginner. So that's about it. Let me know if you've made this pattern before, and if you have, what did you make it out of, and were you happy with how it turned out? Did you do the whole upper and lower body? Did you run into the same thing I did? I'm curious to know. Let me know in the comments. And that's about all I have to share with you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it as always. I hope that you comment so we can chat back and forth. And I do hope to be back this weekend, either for Friday sews or maybe at least at some point in the weekend. This week is our holiday here in the US of Thanksgiving, so I'll be pretty busy with activities around that. So I may not get much done to have anything to share with you, but I do have at least one pattern that I got off of eBay. It's a vintage pattern. So if nothing else, I'll pop on real quick to share that with you. I hope that you're having a great week, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.